The New York Mets are going to get back to their winning ways. They need one man to step up above all else. Francisco Lindor needs to lead this team.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. This is the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. If you want to find some of my written work, you can do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Well, I want to wish you all a very happy July, because July means the New York Mets can start winning baseball games again. For anyone who has watched this team over the last couple of years, you know the June swoon is real. In the Pete Alonso era, we have seen some truly terrible Junes dating back to 2019. The Mets went 10-18 that year. In 2023, they went 7-19 in June. This year, they went 12-15. So by comparison, not that bad, especially when you look back to 2018 before Pete Alonso made his debut, a 5-21 June for the New York Mets. Over the past 15 seasons, going back to 2010 and excluding 2020, when the Mets did not play in June due to the COVID-shortened season, the Mets have had a winning June only 5 times. Last year, 2010, 2011, and 2022. Other than that, they had a few 500 Junes, and then it's been a whole lot of losing. And if we then look at the month of July, or the past 14 seasons, again, excluding 2022, when they went 3-5 over a couple games at the end of the month, the Mets have had a winning record in July 9 times across those 14 seasons. They had 2 years where they had a 500 month in July. So only 3 times this team has had a losing record in July, and they haven't had a really bad July since 2012, where they lost a ton of games. So that should give us all a little bit of hope that the Mets can turn this season around, because it's no longer June. Got to watch out for August, though. August can sometimes be a little bit hairy. July and September, these are the sweet spots. But we'll throw all that out, because at the end of the day, each year is its own story. And while we can look at patterns and it's fun to talk about, the reality is this team is writing its own story in front of us. And it's been some pretty bad chapters over the last couple of weeks. Can they turn things around? Well, it, to me, starts and ends with one player, and that's Francisco Lindor. And it's tough to put that much pressure on one guy, especially when you have a team that has multiple stars, with Juan Soto, who's got the contract twice as large as Lindor's. You got Nimmo, you got Alonso, all these different veterans who are pulling on the rope together at the same time. It really shouldn't have to fall on one player. But if you look at this team this year, they go as Francisco Lindor goes. And if you look at the team last year, they went as Francisco Lindor went. It's the same thing. This is a team that takes their cues from their captain. In March, they went 2-2. April, 19-8. May, 15-12. And then again in June, 12-15. So the last 2 months, you could say the Mets are a 500 team. But if you look a little bit closer, April was the 1 month the Mets were truly special, but they've had pockets over the past couple months where they've still been good for stretches. A great start to June. There was moments in May where they were really good, where they still did have, long winning streaks. They were able to finish off the month of May, beating up the White Sox and the Rockies. You look at it all together, though, and you coincide the Mets' ebbs and flows with Francisco Lindor's, and it lines up very, very well, where it's pretty clear. When Lindor's awesome, so are the Mets. When Lindor goes into one of these slides, so do the Mets. In April, when the Mets went, again, 19-8, Francisco Lindor hit .339, .403 on base, .550 slug, hit a .953 OPS. It was unbelievable. May 1st through May 6th, the Mets went 2-4. Francisco Lindor hit .160 during that stretch. May 7th to the 13th, the Mets go 5-1. Francisco Lindor hit .407. May 14th to the 20th, Mets go 1-5. Francisco Lindor hit .095. May 21st to June 4th, the Mets go 10-3. Francisco Lindor hits .278, but also hits 5 home runs during that stretch. June 5th, breaks his toe, so he misses that game. Comes back on June 7th. From June 7th to the 12th, Francisco Lindor didn't do too much. He hit 273. Didn't have too much power during that stretch. The Mets won 6 in a row against the Rockies and the Nationals. And then you have this stretch that closed out June. June 13th to the 29th, the Mets go 3-13 across 16 games. Francisco Lindor hit 172, 229 on base, 313 slug, 2 home runs, drove in just 5, did not steal a base. Had a WRC plus of 52, that is weighted runs created plus, measures hitters on a league average of 100, so he has been 48% worse than your league average hitter. Francisco Lindor has to get things right or the New York Mets will not make the playoffs this season. He has to shake off this recent slow stretch and get back on it over the next 2 weeks and have a strong finish to what is hopefully his first all-star campaign for the New York Mets. It shouldn't be. He should have a couple of all-stars on his resume as a Met, but regardless, it does seem like he'll get in this year. He's leading the fan vote. We'll see if the fans continue to vote or if Mookie Betts will steal it from him. But Lindor is likely an all-star this season. He's got to prove it over these next 2 weeks. He really has to step up for this team to get right. I think the one way the Mets could spring Lindor a little bit, get him maybe out of his head, maybe just change things up. If I'm Carlos Mendoza, I am strongly considering moving Francisco Lindor out of the leadoff spot. Now, I'm not going to bat Lindor 7th. I'm not going to bat Lindor 5th. Francisco Lindor should still bat in the first inning of every game. But you have a guy who's swinging it well right now that has a long track record as a leadoff hitter. Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor should flip spots. And what that does for Lindor is it gives him the ultimate amount of protection. Because protection goes both ways. It's not just who hits behind you, it's also who hits in front of you. And right now, no one's hitting in front of Francisco Lindor, or when he does have someone hitting in front of him, it's the hitter in the 9-hole. The Mets, if they put Nimmo batting leadoff, I don't think it's going to change his season. Granted, there's part of me that says, look, Nimmo has found something batting second. Keep him there. But they're not even hitting him second in every game because when a righty's on the mound, they just have to move him. To me, Brandon Nimmo, go back into the leadoff spot where he had so much success earlier on in his career. I don't think it drastically changes his season. I think he'd be comfortable batting leadoff again. So he's going to be able to get on base in front of Lindor, and you have Juan Soto behind him. That is the best way to get Lindor some pitches to hit, hopefully get him on track, and that could completely change the lineup. And you know what? If I was to remove from my memory bank a 2024 season where Francisco Lindor was amazing as the leadoff hitter, and I forgot what happened in April where, again, he was amazing as a leadoff hitter, and I was just to construct this lineup for the best optimal group to score runs, putting each guy in their best possible role based on what they've done throughout their careers, I do think you would put Nimmo leadoff, Lindor second, Soto third, and Alonso cleanup. I actually think that makes a lot of sense for this team. So I think that's one thing the Mets can do to help Lindor, but regardless of where he hits, he's got to hit. The New York Mets need Francisco Lindor. I think he's been playing a really good shortstop lately. Now, it's not to say that he wasn't all year, but there was points where Lindor was certainly making some mistakes. And I just feel like despite the losing, Lindor has been very solid there. So you know he's bringing that to the table every day. You know he's going to help you win with the glove. He's got to get back to doing it with the bat as well. Otherwise, this team's just not going to get on track because they have proven over the last 2 years, if Lindor's not right, they're not right. So, yes, it's a lot of pressure to put on Lindor's shoulders, but he warrants it based on his role on this team because he's the heartbeat of this team. He's the leader of this team, and he's got to lead by example right now. I think he absolutely can, and I honestly believe he will. It's just a matter of when does he get back on track? Is it now, and the Mets can have 2 strong weeks before the break, or is it after the break? And the Mets might have some catching up to do when he does get back on track. But it's also, while I am prefacing all of this to say Lindor is the most important person on this team right now, and he has to get right more than anyone else, there are other guys who can step up to ease that burden a bit, and I want to go through them all here in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. When I was using Monarch, I was shocked at how much money I was wasting on subscriptions that I even forgot about. I forgot they were there and I wasn't using them. So canceling those unwanted subscriptions was huge. Also, I started to really see the effect of getting takeout, how much it adds up week over week, month over month. I realized all of that using Monarch, and it helped me take control of my finances. If you want to take control of yours with Monarch Money, use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. We're within, I think, 300. So I appreciate all of you who keep getting us closer and who continue to subscribe. So let's talk about the rest of the guys on this team. Yes, Lindor has to really shoulder a lot of the burden of getting this team on track, but other guys can certainly help him out. If you look at the numbers with runners in scoring position this year, Juan Soto, while he had a great month of June, a lot of people are pointing out he went 3 for 22 with runners in scoring position, continuing what has been a problem for him all year. Soto has been far better when nobody's on base. Maybe you bat him leadoff. Just get on track with a solo homer. Then you go to Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso. I don't know. But in reality here, Soto has to be better in those spots. He has to be. There's only 4 hitters in this lineup this year who are hitting above 250 with runners in scoring position. Pete Alonso leads the team, a 337 batting average with runners in scoring position, 8 home runs, 45 RBIs in those spots. He's been absolutely amazing. Luis Torrens hitting 281, Brett Beatty 267 with a couple of home runs, 19 RBIs, Tyrone Taylor 265. Everybody else below 260. Actually below 250. Lindor on the season is hitting 167 with runners in scoring position, Soto 147, Mark Vientos 132. This is a collective issue, but everyone has to step up in this regard. They have to find a way to have a better approach in those situations and get those runners in when they get them in scoring position. Also, lately, they haven't even been getting runners in scoring position. So it is about this lineup just being better across the board. When you talk about specific hitters, I am watching this team lately, and Soto and Nimmo have been the 2 guys who have been consistently hitting. I think Jeff McNeil has been giving you great at-bats. I think Brett Beatty's at-bats have really improved lately. And Luis Torrens is coming off a good game. Not a good stretch, but off a good game on Sunday. I'm looking at some of these other guys that have the capability to step up. Ronnie Mauricio is a wild card. Haven't seen him get any extended run in the big leagues until now, really. There was the 1 month in 2023 in September, but this is his first time playing for a team that's trying to win in the big leagues. Is he going to figure it out? I don't know, but he is a lightning rod for 2 weeks that could get hot. I look at Starling Marte giving you veteran at bats. That's pretty solid. You got, can Tyrone Taylor step up a little bit more than he has been? Absolutely. But the guy that jumps out more than anyone else, who has disappointed more than I want to say probably any hitter in this lineup, is Mark Vientos. He is the poster child of the guy that has disappointed and needs to step up, who could completely swing this season for the Mets, because he did that last year. Mark Vientos being an all-star basically from June on last year is why the Mets made the playoffs. One of the many reasons, but a very big reason for their success. And now he's just lost. Now, I'm not going to look down on him for the weekend he had, because he was just coming off the injured list. But the season he has been very disappointing. So can Mark Vientos figure this out? If Vientos can hit and your 5 veterans keep doing their thing, obviously you need Lindor and Alonso to get back on track, but you have Soto, Nimmo, and McNeil who are all swinging it well. If you all of a sudden go 6 deep in your lineup and it's just a matter of figuring out the bottom 3, with one of those spots being your catcher spot, and you're just hoping you get some more good things out of Torrens, and when Alvarez eventually comes back, he's a different hitter when he does. And then it's figuring out who's going to grab those last couple spots in your lineup. Is it a Jesse Winker in the DH spot with Vientos at third base? Is it Brett Beatty at third base with Vientos DHing? Who's playing center field? Who's playing second base? These are the things that the Mets are going to have to figure out. But for now, if you look at guys that have to step up, Juan Soto needs to start doing it with runners in scoring position, along with what he's doing with the bases empty. Pete Alonso needs to get back to being the run producer we've seen at stretches this season where he's been unbelievable. And Francisco Lindor has to get back on track with Mark Vientos as well, finally having a good month. Maybe that comes in July. If those things happen, this lineup can still be very dangerous. But that's a lot of things that need to go right. I just think that there isn't any big trade that's going to fix everything. There's not a prospect that's going to come up that's going to cure all when it comes to this lineup. It's the guys the Mets have right now that need to do the stepping up. And I don't think it's a situation where you're waiting on a roster move to make it happen. As much as I think Jesse Winker will help, I don't think that's the end-all be-all. Having the star players be stars and having somebody step up as a star role player like a Mark Vientos, that could change everything for this team. And I think this is a team that needs to start leading with their bats a little bit, because the pitching over the next 2 weeks, it's just not going to carry this team. With that said, there are still arms that I think can have a huge impact on the Mets over the next few weeks before we get to the All-Star break. The first one that jumps out to me is coming out of the bullpen. That's Daniel Nunez. Daniel Nunez, when you're just talking about pure stuff and ability and ceiling out of the Mets bullpen, for Nunez, it's as high as any guy they have. He is as talented as any pitcher in that bullpen not named Edwin Diaz. So if Daniel Nunez can get right, and we did see, not the last appearance, but the one following Griffin Canning's injury, where he went out there for 2 innings, struck out 4, and just had 6 up, 6 down, perfect frames. If that guy can come back, that's everything to this bullpen. Because right now, I look at Edwin Diaz, Reed Garrett, Jose Budo. Those guys are all pitching well. Ryan Stanek is coming off a good week. If you add a 5th guy in there with Nunez who can get you multiple innings and can sort of fill in that Brazaban role or the Max Kranick role that we saw early in the season, guys that really did thrive as those multi-inning weapons, that can be Nunez again. So we'll see if he can be that X factor. In the rotation, you can point your finger at a lot of guys. David Peterson stepping up and being the guy that he was prior to the last 2 starts. Seeing Paul Blackburn not be a disaster. See Clay Holmes continue to do what he's done. But the 2 names that jump out to me that need to step up in July is Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea, the guys that have been hurt all year. If they can show why the Mets spent the money to get these guys in the offseason, they can have a big month of July. It's going to go a long way for this team. And over the next 2 weeks, Frankie Montas is obviously going to get a start in each week. And there's every chance that Sean Manaea might be ready to rejoin the Mets on Tuesday and wherever they start in that final road trip, Baltimore. I think it's Baltimore before Kansas City, but don't quote me on that. If he can start that Tuesday, he would get 2 starts before the break. So you still could get 2 starts from Manaea, as well as the 2 starts you're going to get from Montas. It's 12 games left. Those 4 starts go really well for the Mets. It's 30-year games. And I think what it would do for the rest of this rotation to just have that veteran stabilizing presence, it would go such a long way, because you're looking at what the Mets have in the rotation right now, presently this week. It's David Peterson, who has been with this team for a long time, is coming off a great season, and has had a really good start to this season. I still don't look at him as a veteran starting pitcher. Paul Blackburn, sure, been around for a little bit. He's not a veteran that's leading your rotation. Clay Holmes in his first year right now as a full-time starting pitcher since being in the bullpen. And then currently Blade Tidwell is due for a spot start this week. So if you're trying to find that stabilizing presence, where is it? Who is it? Montas had 1 good start, but you have to remember he's coming off a lengthy absence. So it's really tough to see where this rotation is going to find a solid foundation, and it might just be the 2 guys that weren't there when this was the best rotation in baseball, the guys that were on the injured list, who are finally getting healthy and getting into the swing of things here, beginning for Montas, end of June, for Manaea, early July, trying to really start their season. If they can be really good this month, that's going to be a massive, massive win for this team. And it really could, give the Mets a different level of momentum, and one that they've been lacking clearly over the last few weeks. But unfortunately, as we look at the road ahead here and we preview the series the Mets are about to play, while it's great that they're back home, they got a very tough opponent coming to town. Are the Milwaukee Brewers a team the Mets can even beat? We'll talk about that more in the next segment. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like a part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. If you're an everydayer that's always tuning into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime, take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways, and get a live graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find a link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Now, the New York Mets have not met the Brewers yet this season. So the last time these two teams squared off, it was in the playoffs where the Mets ended the Brewers' playoff dreams on that majestic home run by Pete Alonso over Devin Williams. The Brewers were an outstanding team last season, but it all ended at the hands of the New York Mets. So if you think the Brewers have just been looking at this series on the calendar as just another 3-game set, I think you're mistaken. I'm sure they've gone to New York on a mission with a chip on their shoulder. They're looking at a team who is in a free fall. The Brewers have been playing great baseball. I'm sure they smell blood in the water and are looking for revenge. So, how have they played throughout this season? Let's talk about how they got to this point where they've been playing great baseball lately. They started the year 13-15, but then they won the final 3 games they had played in the month of April to still turn in a winning month. In May, they went 15-13. So they ended May with a record 3 games over 500, but in June, they went 16-9, and more specifically, they won 11 of their final 15 games to close out the month. They won 4 of their last 5 series, with the lone exception being a 2-game split against the Cubs where 1 game got rained out. So they went from 36-33 to 47-37. Let's look at where they're at in the standings right now. They are just at this point, I think they're in second place, right? 2 games back of the Cubs in the NL Central. Suddenly a really thrilling race as you have the Cardinals, who are 3 games back, and the Reds, who are playing some great baseball, 5.5 games back. So this Central is pretty interesting right now. The Brewers have owned the Central for really since the Mets president of baseball operations, David Stearns, took over in Milwaukee. They have been one of the best franchises in the game, particularly when you look at the small market teams. So this is not an easy team to play, particularly when they're hot, and this team is scorching right now. You look at their offense over this stretch where they've gone, again, 11-4 over the last 15. Bryce Terang hitting 400 during that span. Caleb Duran hitting 375. Christian Yelich hitting 371. Sal Frelick hitting 354. Isaac Collins hitting 304, and Joey Ortiz, who got off to a brutal start this season, starting to bring his average back up. He hit 296 across these past 15 games. As a team, the Brewers are hitting 304, 366, 466 over the last 15. That is the second highest average in Major League Baseball, second highest on base percentage. But in the National League, it's the best in both categories, also the best WRC plus. And they've scored 98 runs, which also is the best mark in the National League. So we're talking about a team that over these past few weeks has been the best team in the National League in terms of their offense. Not a home run hitting team, but a team that's quick, runs the bases well, plays great defense, and will win within the margins. Kind of the opposite of what the Mets have been lately. During that same period of time, their pitching staff has had a 3.38 ERA, the second best mark in the National League, behind only the Phillies. They have Jacob Mizorowski, who we're going to see tomorrow, is a pitching phenom who's up and has been lights out. Quentin Priester has been very good, although we won't see him in this series. Although I will say, look at the rest of the rotation. We'll talk about the specific guys the Mets are going to see in a minute. But Freddie Peralta, 3.94 ERA across his last 3 starts. Chad Patrick, a 4.80 ERA. And Jose Quintana, a 5.06 ERA over his last 3. The bullpen, though, has been solid. Grant Anderson, Nick Mears, Aaron Ashby, Trevor McGill, they're all pitching the ball pretty well right now. So now let's talk about the matchups. First things first, you got Clay Holmes on 5 days rest. So hopefully you have a full go Clay Holmes versus Freddie Peralta. Peralta is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. He has given up 3 earned runs, though, over 5 innings pitched in 2 of his last 3 starts. Actually, his last 2 starts specifically. On the season, Peralta has a 2.90 ERA. And you look at what he's done against Mets hitters. Collectively, the Mets as a team, all the different guys who have faced him, are hitting 143 against Freddie Peralta. Now, only Soto, Nemo, and Marte have seen him at least 10 times. So not a large sample size, but Freddie Peralta has handled the Mets very well. But this is the starting pitcher right now for the Mets that you trust the most in Clay Holmes. So we'll see if they can find their way to beat the Brewers ace and get this series off on a good note. Problem, even though you're facing the ace in the first game, game 2 of this series, you might see an even better arm, and that is Jacob Mizorowski, who will be going up against Tyler McGill. I don't know where that came from. Who will be going up against Blade Tidwell. Mizorowski had a 2.13 ERA in AAA this season with 80 strikeouts. Through 3 big league starts, for one, he's won all of them. He's allowed just 2 earned runs and 3 hits across 16 innings pitched. Let me say that again. He's allowed 3 hits and 2 runs in 16 big league innings pitched. In his debut, he threw 5 hitless innings. He did walk 4, but was really good. Gave up a couple runs in his second start, but did go 6 innings. That was his high when it comes to his pitch count so far in the big leagues at 86. And then it was 5 shutty last time out. This guy's 6'7", and he gets over 7.5 feet of extension towards home plate, the best mark in Major League Baseball. His fastball averages 99.6 miles per hour. Averages 100. Slider, 94.5 miles per hour. This is like Edwin Diaz if he was 6'7" and you had to see him for 5 innings instead of 1. It is going to be a very uncomfortable at bat for all these Mets hitters. So that's something to look forward to, not really as far as the result of the game, but it's always cool to see an arm like that pitch. So that's kind of appointment television, although all these games certainly had the chance to be very good. Final game of the series, a couple former teammates squaring off, Jose Quintana versus David Peterson. Quintana had an unbelievable start to the season. He had a 1.14 ERA across his first 4 starts. Had a clunker against the Cubs in the beginning of May, then had a good start and was hurt after that. He had a shoulder injury that kept him out until we got into June. Across 5 starts in June, he pitched to a 4.14 ERA, gave up 5 earned runs against the Cardinals on June 14th. Then he went 6 shutout against the Twins. And then his last start this past week, he gave up 4 runs against the Rockies at home. So I think Jose Quintana is clearly the most hittable pitcher in this series that the Mets are going to go up against. And if they can get to that game, sitting in a position where they're in a rubber match, I feel pretty good about their chances to win, despite the fact that Peterson has really been going through it. I still think that they would have, I don't know if I'd say an edge, but a good chance to hit Jose Quintana. The next 2 days, though, it's going to be tough. Freddie Peralta is very good. He's not going to make many mistakes. Jacob Mizorowski could make some mistakes, but if he's making a mistake at 100 or 101 miles per hour, you still might not get it. And if he's making a mistake with a slider, but it comes in at 95, you also might not get that. So it's going to be very tough for these Mets hitters over the next few days. But hopefully they show up, they're resilient, and they prove that this is a team that is still to be reckoned with. but I will be covering it all on this show throughout the week. And I do have a live stream coming your way later tonight. We have no postcast because Chris Schubert is not available, so I will continue to fill in. I think Chris is going to be back tomorrow for Wednesday's postcast, but I got this one covered, and I'll have you covered throughout the week as well. So if you don't want to miss it, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and pay attention to your notifications. Put the notifications on, and you will get notified when I go live after the game later on tonight. I will also still have a full show for you in the morning, breaking down whatever is the latest on the New York Mets at that time. I appreciate all of you for tuning in today. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Again, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find a link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. Now for your second watch, head over to YouTube and check out Locked On MLB Game Night, the show that'll take you around all the action in Major League Baseball with insight from all of our local experts. You can find Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel, as well as the Locked On MLB podcast feed.